morning, children. Today we are going to begin with a new lesson in chemistry, and the name of the lesson is atomic structure. Now children, atomic structure, in this lesson we are going to deal about the structure of an atom. What are the subatomic particles, how they were discovered, and the various properties of all these things, the valencies, mass number, and a lot of things are there that are going to be covered up in this lesson, that is atomic structure. So without wasting time, let's get started. Earlier it was thought that atom was considered to be indivisible. That means it was thought that atom cannot be divided into anything simpler because it was supposed to be the smallest thing that could be found. But later on it was the discovery, it was the work of the various scientists that led to the discovery that atoms itself were made up of subatomic particles. So in ancient time, the Indian scientist, he was the Indian philosopher, and his name was... In ancient time, Indian and Greek philosophers were very curious to know about the nature of the matter. And at that time, Maharishi Kannad, he was an Indian philosopher, he said that on dividing matter, we get smaller and smaller particles. And ultimately, the smallest particle that cannot be further divided, he gave this particle a name as Parmanus. He named these smallest particles as Parmanus, right? During the same time, there were two Greek philosophers, Democritus and Euapus, also gave the same idea. However, they called the smallest indivisible particle of matter to be atoms. The word atomos came from a Greek word which means indivisible. That means atoms were first, it came from a Greek word which meant as atomos. John Dalton gave his atomic theory. Now in the same time, children, when something was being discovered, all the scientists who were of the same field, of the same subject, they started doing the investigation and research work on the same thing. So in that context, John Dalton also started studying about atom, and he gave his theory which was known as the atomic theory. In 1808, John Dalton, he was an English scientist, he gave a theory about the nature of matter, and this theory was known as Dalton's atomic theory. Now what were the main features or the points of Dalton's atomic theory? Let's see that. He said that matter is made up of extremely small and indivisible particles called atoms. He said that all matter, whether it is a solid, liquid or gas, it is all made up of the smallest particles which are called atoms. And these atoms cannot be created nor they can be destroyed. All the atoms of a particular element are identical. They will have the same size, mass, density and the other chemical properties. That means if we talk about two atoms, say of oxygen, they will resemble each other completely. If we talk about two atoms of gold, they will resemble completely in all the properties. But the atoms of oxygen as well as the atom of gold will differ from each other in all respects, like size, mass, density, chemical properties, etc. Atoms of an element will combine with the atoms of the other elements to form the molecules of compound. That we accept today also, children, because suppose I give you an example of water. Now water contains the atoms of hydrogen and oxygen. Now hydrogen is a different element, oxygen is a different element, but when the atoms of these elements, they come and combine together in a fixed ratio, they form what is known as a compound. So a molecule of a compound can be formed by taking the atoms of the different elements. Atoms are the smallest unit of any element that can take part in a chemical reaction. That means atoms, all the atoms of the different elements, if they are in a chemical reaction, they will certainly take part. Next is the subatomic particles. Now later on it was discovered that atoms itself, it is composed of very, very small particles that are there inside the atom, and they are known as the electrons, protons and the neutrons. Another name for these three is, children, the fundamental particles or the subatomic particles. Now an atom is electrically neutral. That means on the whole, if you see, children, every atom is neutral. That means it is neither a positive nor negative. But it develops a positive or the negative charge. Then if it develops a positive and a negative charge, it is known as an ion. Now this clearly indicates, children, if the ions are there, that means they either carry, the atoms either carry a positive charge or a negative charge that is inside them only. So this was the reason that gave rise to the discoveries, and they started discovering what is there inside the atom. And in that context, the first subatomic particle that was discovered were the electrons. The discovery of the electrons came as a result of the study, and it was being done by William Crookes. So what William Crookes did was, he had taken a discharge tube, children. Now for this experiment, children, he had taken a discharge tube. This is known as a discharge tube. It is made up of, it is cylindrical and it is made up of glass. It is sealed at both the ends, and then two electrodes were introduced inside. See these two electrodes, and they were connected to the battery, see, so that they could get the supply of the electricity. Now inside this discharge tube, he had filled the gas at very low pressure. And then it was also connected to the vacuum pump so that the extra air could be evacuated out. And then when a very light electric current was passed through it, he saw that some rays started coming out from the cathode and they started moving towards the anode. Now because these rays started originating from the cathode, he named these rays as the cathode rays. And later on it was discovered that these cathode rays were nothing but they were the stream of the electrons. That means the electrons were the ones that were coming out from the cathode and they were moving towards the anode. Now what is cathode, children? The electrode which is connected to the negative terminal of the battery is known as cathode, and the electrode which is connected to the positive terminal of the battery is known as the anode. After certain number of years, children, in the year 1897, it was J.J. Thomson. He was a British scientist. He too did the same kind of an experiment because he wanted to study the characteristics of the cathode rays. So he also performed a similar kind of an experiment with a discharge tube. He also took a discharge tube, and in this discharge tube, children, only difference what he created was he had also applied the electrical field in the path of the cathode rays. Now what happened, as the rays from the cathode started coming out, he saw that these rays got attracted towards the positively charged plate that was kept. That shows that something that is negative in charge was coming out of this cathode and was getting attracted towards the positively charged plate. Then he also applied a magnetic field in the path, and they also deflected in the direction in which the moving negative charges deflect. So on the basis of his observations, it was concluded that cathode rays are made up of negatively charged particles, and those particles were given the name as electrons. All atoms contain electrons as their integral part, and now today we know, children, that every atom of any element, whether it is a metal, non-metal, metalloids, noble gases, they all are made up of a positively charged particle as well as a negatively charged particle, and this negatively charged particle is known as the electrons. Coming to the properties of the electrons. An electron has a definite mass and it carries a definite charge. Electrons are negatively charged and subatomic particles. The charge on every electron is minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. Now this value you will have to learn, children. The mass of an electron is 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 28 grams. Even this value you will have to learn, children. Because it is very, very less, that is why we say that the mass of an electron is negligible. That means it should not be considered. It is approximately non-considerable only because it is so less. It is 1/1837 times the mass of an atom of hydrogen. If we take an atom of hydrogen and with that if we try to compare, children, we see that it is 1/1837 times less. That means it is very, very less. The symbol of an electron, is, see how it is written, -1 E and a 0 over here. The superscript, this thing, the thing that is written on top, children, we call it as a superscript, represents the mass number. Now because it is very less, so approximately the mass is considered to be 0. And this is the subscript, children, which is written on the lower side. it is represented as -1, which means it's a -1 negative charge which is there on this electron. So with this we complete the discovery of the electrons. Now once the electrons were discovered, next came the discovery of the proton. Now once the electrons were discovered, it was thought about by the various people that there must be some positive charge also inside an atom. Otherwise, how is it possible that the atom on the whole are neutral? So they started discovering about the positive charges that are there inside an atom. In the same context, in the year 1886, E. Goldstein, he was the one who discovered these positively charged particles inside an atom. Now the apparatus that was set up was similar to what was done in the beginning for the discovery of the electrons. That means a discharge tube was taken, and inside that at a very low pressure the gas was filled, and then the two electrodes were introduced in that. Only difference was, children, over here they had taken the cathode that was actually perforated. Perforated means it had a number of holes. So when it had a number of holes, the rays were able to pass through them. See this. This was the apparatus that was there. Means the discharge tube, children. This is the discharge tube which is sealed at both the ends, and then it has the two electrodes. See this one. It's a perforated cathode that was taken, and then when high voltage current was passed through this gas which was taken at a very low pressure, then they saw that something was passing through this cathode and was coming towards the anode. And obviously the this thing, see the rays, they have the arrowhead which is moving this side, and this has an arrowhead which is moving this side. That means the rays were moving in both the direction. Something was coming towards the cathode and something was coming towards the anode also. So the thing that was coming from the anode and it was passing through the perforated cathode and coming on the back side. See, something was coming on the back side, right? So that means both the gases, both, not exactly the gases, but it was a stream that was flowing in both the direction. So that means this gave rise to the conclusion that the positively charged particles called protons were there, which were moving from the anode and they were moving towards the cathode, and then they were producing again a red glow. See, a red glow was being produced, a green glow was being produced, as well as a red glow was being produced. So this gave rise to the discovery of the protons. Then coming to the properties of the protons, children. The first property of protons are positively charged particles. The charge of a proton is equal to the charge of an electron. That means in charge both of them are the same. Only thing is they are opposite in nature. One is positive and the other is negative. 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. The mass of a proton is equal to the mass of an atom of hydrogen. That is 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams. You will have to learn these numbers, children. The symbol of a proton, how are you going to symbolize it? See, it's a +1 and 1. Superscript and subscript is 1. The superscript represents the mass, that is 1 AMU. AMU stands for atomic mass unit. And the subscript is +1, which represents the positive charge. So this way is with the discovery of the electrons and the protons, children. Another question, a big question rose, that how are these arranged in an atom? That is, where is the position of the electrons as well as the protons inside an atom? So it was J.J. Thomson in the year 1903. He proposed the first model of an atom, and this model was known as also a plum pudding model. He said that just like in a cake, the cherries are embedded somewhere, in the same way an atom is a mass. It's a complete ball. It's a mass of positive charges where the negative charges are, where these negative charges are just embedded like the berries or the cherries. In an atom, the total positive charge is always equal to the total negative charge, and that is why an atom is electrically neutral. The mass of an atom is uniformly distributed, right? So these were the certain points, and this was how J.J. Thomson gave the model for the first atom, that where the electrons and the protons are there present in an atom. So this was the arrangement how this J.J. Thomson described that the arrangement of the atom is there, the arrangement of the subatomic particles inside an atom is there. See, just like the plum pudding, right? And he also described that it is the structure of an atom is just like a watermelon also, where the red portion is actually the protons and this black seeds are actually the electrons. So this is the model that was described, the first model that was described about the structure of an atom, that was given by J.J. Thomson. Later on, Thomson's this model was not accepted because he could not experimentally give the answer to the various questions that were asked on the structure of an atom. But only one thing about his model was accepted, that is, an atom was electrically neutral. This theory that he had given was widely accepted by all the people. Now it was Ernest Rutherford who again conducted an experiment in order to find the arrangement of the electrons and the protons inside an atom. So what he did was, he did a scattering experiment. Rutherford bombarded a very thin gold foil. A very thin foil of gold was taken, which was approximately, see the thickness, it's 0.00004 centimeter thick. That means it was very, very thin, with the alpha particles in an evacuated chamber. Inside an evacuated chamber, that means where the air was not present, over there he bombarded this thin gold film with alpha particles. The alpha particles got scattered, and according to what he has observed, he made a number of observations, and according to his observations he concluded and came up to the various conclusions. Now this was actually his experiment, what he was trying to do. He bombarded the alpha particles on a very thin gold foil. See, a very thin gold foil, and then he observed where the radiations and where the alpha particles were going and striking this screen that was covered with a coating of zinc sulfide. Now he observed that some of the rays were coming and going back on the same path. Some of them were getting deflected by quite a great angle, and some of them were passing undeflected also, and some of them were passing straight and they were hitting. So according to where the radiations were going and hitting this screen, he made a number of conclusions. So his first conclusion was that there is a lot of empty space in an atom. Secondly, there is a very small positively charged object which is present in the center of the atom, from where the rays were coming and going back on the same path. That means they were being deflected, and the rays will get deflected only if they face the same charge. So that means a very small portion inside the atom in the center contains a lot of positive. The positive charge in the center, children, it was given a name as the nucleus, because he said that is the place where the concentration of the positive particles was seen in an atom. Now this kind of an arrangement, this kind of a thing was being observed, that when the alpha particles were passing through this gold foil, what was happening to the various rays, what kind of deflection they were facing. Some of them were deflecting to a very small angle, most of them were passing out straight. That means they were not facing any kind of a deflection and there was no hindrance, and some of them came and went back on the same path. So according to this, children, he made a number of conclusions also. So his conclusions were, children, an atom consists of a positively charged dense small portion which is known as nucleus, and it is present right in the center. The entire mass of an atom was concentrated in the nucleus. That means the complete mass of an atom is actually the mass that is found in the nucleus only. The size of the nucleus is very small compared to the size of an atom. Nucleus is also surrounded by negatively charged particles, which were the electrons, and these electrons, they move around the nucleus in the circular path which are known as the orbit at a very high speed, just like the planets that revolve around the sun, but the speed over here of the electrons is too high. The number of electrons is always equal to the number of protons, and that is why an atom on a whole is electrically neutral, and there is a lot of empty space in an atom where the electrons move about freely. Now, according to the theory of Maxwell, he states that when a charged particle revolves around an oppositely charged particle, it loses its energy. So if we apply this theory to the Rutherford's model, then when the electrons were revolving around the nucleus that was supposed to have a positive charge, then these electrons should lose their energy, and eventually their speed should also slow down, And a state should come where the electrons should lose their energy so much that they should ultimately come and fall down into the nucleus. That means the structural collapse of the atom should have taken place, which does not take place, children. That means there is something other which is stopping the electrons from coming close to the nucleus and falling down into the nucleus. That means the structural collapse of the atom does not take place. Later on, children, it was because of the electrons and the protons that were present in an atom. The mass of an atom was concentrated in the nucleus only, because the mass of electrons was taken to be negligible. But whenever the mass of an atom was calculated and then the mass of the protons was calculated, it was always found that there was a big difference between the two numbers, which should not be there. But there was always a difference, so it was thought about that there is something more inside the nucleus which is adding to the mass of the atom. So this led to the discovery of the third subatomic particle, which was done in 1932 by James Chadwick. So he was the one who discovered the third subatomic particles and gave it a name as neutrons. The properties of the neutrons, let's see that. Now see the properties of the neutron, children. The mass of a neutron, underline this number, children, 1.675 into 10 to the power 24 grams, is slightly more than that of the mass of a proton, that was only 1.672 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams. So it is slightly more. So the mass of a neutron was slightly more than the mass of a proton. Second is, a neutron is electrically neutral. That means it does not have any charge. See, it does not have any charge. An neutron is electrically neutral. And then the last one is, the atoms of the same element may have different number of neutrons, right? So atoms of the same element may have different number of neutrons, and children, if there is a difference in the number of neutrons, then they form another set of atoms, and that are known as the isotopes. Let's see the do you know. Only one element, that is hydrogen, does not contain neutron in the nucleus of its atom. Other than that, every atom of every element will always contain a neutron as well as a proton in the nucleus, and the electrons will be found rotating or revolving around the nucleus. So with this we come to an end of the discovery of the three subatomic particles and how these three subatomic particles are arranged in a structure of an atom. Thank you and have a very nice day. I hope I have made myself very clear, and if you have clearly understood, you know what to do, children. You need to subscribe to my channel and please share my channel with other friends of yours so that all of them are also being benefited. See you all in the next upcoming videos very soon. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.